Thanks for tuning in on your Sunday evening. I'm Holly Emery, and I've got a recap of some of the stuff that's going on across the metro, but all across the state. We actually are going to begin with some breaking news in South Mississippi. It happened in Hancock County. Here we go, right here. And the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations is investigating an officer-involved shooting in Hancock County. Bailey Martin with the Department of Public Safety tells us the incident happened along Highway 604 in Pearlington and involved the Hancock County Sheriff's Office. Deputies originally responded to a domestic call where a suspect was allegedly holding a victim captive. The suspect pulled out a weapon at the deputies, resulting in the deputies firing their weapons at the suspects. The suspect died from their injuries. Now, according to Martin, no officers were injured during this officer-involved shooting. MBI is, of course, currently assessing this critical incident, and they are gathering evidence as we speak. So that is developing today. So we are hopefully going to get more information into the coming week that we can update you on the condition of that victim that was being held captive as well. So just make sure you tune into WLET and stay up to date with everything going on there. Now, also, we're learning more information about a shooting that happened last month in Jefferson Davis County. 8 people have been arrested for an incident that happened last month. Now, they were arrested for shooting a teen in Jefferson Davis County. Officials say 17-year-old Galvin Fortenberry was killed and 4 others were injured. That shooting happened on August 17th at Finish Line Drag Strip in Prentice. You might remember that got a lot of social media traction on Facebook as well as TikTok. 22-year-old Kendarius Washington, 18-year-old Jaden Williams, and 19-year-old Javante Williams face charges in connection to the murder of Fortenberry, in addition to other offenses. So you can expect those charges to come to light in the coming days. And 3 more suspects reportedly surrendered themselves voluntarily to the Jefferson Davis County Sheriff's Office. These 3 suspects are 19-year-old Samuel Martin, 18-year-old Braden Heron, and 20-year-old Gregory Harris. As you can see, we've got a couple teenagers as well as some adults in this case. Now, officials say 2 more suspects could face charges. However, their identities are not being released to the media or to the public at this time until they are in police custody. That's likely because they do not want those suspects to run, and they want to question them and get them into their custody before anything else happens. Now, we're going to start with things back in the capital city now. Jackson's Ward 3 Councilman Kenneth Stokes is sounding the alarm on some concerns from a business owner around Veterans Memorial Stadium, and that business owner is from the D Sports Bar and Grill. He's saying that there's a lot of squatters as well as crime in that area around Veterans Memorial Stadium, which is the Jackson State Tiger Stadium. And we spoke to Councilman Stokes and that person earlier today. Now, again, the co-owner of D Sports Bar and Grill, his name is Raymond Handler, met with Councilman Stokes this afternoon to discuss the growing issues of squatters, around the restaurant, around his restaurant, which is only a short distance from Veterans Memorial Stadium. A lot of you might pass by and may not even realize it's there because you actually park on that side street that's right down the street from Veterans Memorial if you were trying to go to the game. Now, when you are attending those JSU football games, you might park there and around the restaurant. But Councilman Stokes says that they've seen some car break-ins in that area. It's pretty predominant in that area. So they're trying to make sure that everybody is safe, not only on game day, but also just attending this restaurant. Here's what the owner had to say.
There is no street like that up here, but it's a street like everywhere else. So the question is, when it's going to take place? When there's going to be some lights up where people can feel comfortable walking from their car and back to their car, knowing that the car is safe.
Now, Councilman Stokes says that there will be a community meeting this Tuesday at True Believers Missionary Baptist Church to discuss solutions to address crime across the capital city. That, of course, you are welcome to attend and get all of the information and also just voice your concerns in general to city leaders. Again, we have actually seen a decrease in gun violence and homicides in the capital city in the compared to this time last year. However, that doesn't mean that these leaders are completely done with trying to fix the homicide right here in the metro area, as well as Jackson. Now, meteorologist Anais Scales is here with me to talk a little bit about the weather we've been having. It's been very, very muggy, very summer-like.
Has it been muggy?
I feel like it's been muggy.
You think it's been muggy?
Compared to what we had beautiful temperature. I told you we were spoiled last week, and now I'm like constantly fanning myself outside. I feel like I'm muggy. Maybe it's not.
So it's the heat. It's the temperature. That's the problem. And if we look at our actual dew points across the area, they are fairly comfortable. We're seeing fairly dry air. Some of the dew points in the 50s. So that means that our humidity overall is actually pretty low. But that doesn't really matter too much if the actual temperature itself is in the mid 90s. So I think that's what you are referencing, Holly. It's the fact that it's just really hot. We can see that outside. We're seeing temperatures still about 90 degrees at 6 p.m. here across central Mississippi. Certainly has been a hot day out there, but earlier we saw that. I'm going to scroll back a little bit here on this graphic. The good news is we've seen a lot of sunshine. We can see that here on our first alert radar, and the blue H's that you see around, that's high pressure. And that basically, in summary, that means that we're seeing very calm weather, lots of sunshine. It's keeping our rain chances suppressed. So we're not seeing a lot of chances for showers and storms, not only for today, but for your Monday as well. Waking up, we're going to see a little bit of cloud cover, and temperatures, of course, much more comfortable overnight, upper 60s, lower 70s. But by the afternoon, because we're still seeing that high pressure dominating, it's going to be pretty hot once again. So not necessarily muggy, but hot. And it doesn't make much of a difference when it's late September or mid-September and you want it to be fall-like, but we're still seeing kind of summer-like weather. We expect that throughout much of the extended forecast. Our 10-day temperature trend shows a slight decrease. But by that, I mean from 94, 95 to 90, 91.
But that really does make a difference for people who work outside. That once you get up past 90, it just gets a little bit more miserable.
It's understandable.
So like for people who work outside, maybe they're like, for us, and we may not tell the difference, but for people outside, they might be like, oh, thank goodness. It's in the 90s.
It'll still be important to stay hydrated either way. But I see your point. A lot of this is going to be due to the fact also that towards the end of the week, we will have an increase in our cloud cover and increase in stray showers. But the kind of trade-off is that moisture is building back into the atmosphere. And that's what kind of gives us a better chance to see some rain. It also increases our humidity. Okay. So our feels like temperature so far this weekend have been fairly low compared to the actual high. We're seeing at most maybe 2 degrees warmer is what it feels like. Right. Now, towards the end of the week, the actual temperature will be lower, but the humidity will be higher.
So what I'm feeling right now, where I think it's humid, you're like, sorry, it's going to get worse.
A little bit. Now,
a little bit.
Don't think it's going to be like in July where it feels like temperature was like 120. We're not seeing that type of thing, but dew points could be in the 70s. It might feel like we're still in the mid to upper 90s, even though we're technically not going to be there. Okay. We're going to be mostly dry throughout the week, but I mentioned those stray showers building back in. That's because of a disturbance to our west, and that's going to mean that rainfall chances are higher for our western counties heading towards the end of this week and towards the upcoming weekend. And once again, that's what's mainly going to drive temperatures slightly down, but upper 80s to lower 90s. Not a huge difference, but closer to average. Overnight lows are going to be pretty typical. So besides that, I'd also just like to take one glance over into the tropics because there is an update. We have a high chance of development for this system. Scattered showers and storms, that was a tropical wave. It just emerged from Western Africa not too long ago, a couple days ago, at the end of our last week. And now, as it heads to the central Atlantic, there is a pretty high chance that we could see this into a tropical depression, at least by the end of this week. So we'll have to continue to keep our eyes on that system for the extended forecast, especially heading into late September.
Okay. And is it pretty, again, I'm just kind of I'm going to appeal to your nerd side of the weather world. Not really, not calling you a nerd.
It's fine.
But more of just, so when we do have these tropical waves over near Africa, and when we do get closer to the United States, is that kind of when we start seeing the hurricanes form? You didn't say it's a hurricane. But
yes.
That's when it's likely to.
Well, it depends on a lot of factors. There's so many things that go into hurricane formation. Dry air, whether or not dry air sets up, and there's high pressure systems that are always somewhere in the central Atlantic, but they can be slightly to the north, slightly to the south, and all those factors really play in to determine whether or not this storm can survive and thrive into a more powerful cyclone, and whether or not it can make landfall. Because earlier on in the season, you may remember we had the hurricanes that kind of just
zoomed off the other way.
Yes, and that's because we were seeing high pressure further out towards the east. And storms, they go around that. So it's not good to say definitively a long way out what happens, because we could get dry air to be entrained into the system and then it fall apart when it's near the Caribbean or something like that. There's just a lot of things that change. But we're just seeing this red hatched area. The sea surface temperatures are warm enough. It looks like it will encounter fairly stable conditions for at least the formation of a development. A tropical depression, I should say. A tropical depression.
I know, I threw in the word hurricane. Let's make sure you did not say it's a hurricane.
I did not.
It is a tropical depression, maybe.
Yes, and that's one good thing about these outlooks. They're about 7 days at a time. And the models that go longer than that, I've been looking at them, and they haven't really been agreeing. Some of them show kind of the scenario that we were seeing earlier. They kind of spin off and just kind of fall apart. And earlier in the weekend, we had some models that kind of showed something kind of just going straight to the Caribbean. But when you get to 10 days out,
you're just not.
All those factors, we're trying to predict the effects of systems that haven't even formed across.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're trying to be fortune tellers. No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding, folks.
Crystal
they actually
ball.
do use a lot of science to figure this out. But of course, the team will be, of course, tracking this and making sure that you are all up to date. But as of right now, 10 days, it's not looking like very much rain.
Oh yeah, for a first look 10-day forecast, at most, when I say rain chances increase at the end of the week, I mean isolated showers. Most of us are still going to stay dry. Not good for the drought monitor, but good if you want to head outdoors.
All right. Thank you so much, Anae. Now, of course, the New Orleans Saints were in New Orleans earlier today, but luckily they're in the Superdome. So, of course, they're going to be feeling a heck of a lot better than the rest of us who were outside earlier today. And they, of course, were taking on the 49ers. And Nathan Lee is here with me right now to give us a little bit of recap. I mean, that was a little painful for you, but they looked competitive. I mean, I'm just going to say that. They looked competitive.
And that's the thing, if you're a Saints fan out there watching these first 2 weeks, they're competing. Right. They're playing hard. They're not giving up. I know these are cliches you hear in sports that, if you don't win, it really doesn't matter. But it was a really, really strong performance. But at the end of the day, it's just the simple mistakes that the Saints made that really kind of played this one out. I'm going to kind of go through the stat sheet here because I found this very interesting. Team stats, when you look at it, a lot of parallels, very identical for both teams. 23 first downs for the 49ers, 21 for the Saints. Total plays, 68 for the 49ers, 67 for the Saints. 344 total yards for the 49ers, 307 for the Saints. Both had 11 drives total. Both had a turnover each. Both 49ers had 5 penalties. Saints only had 7, so that is an improvement from last week. They had 12 to 13, which was insane. The Saints ran the ball better, but also time of possession, just over 30 minutes for the 49ers. For the Saints, just over 29. So this game was just really, really competitive when you look at the stat sheet, when you watched it on the game. There was a point in this one where it felt like the 49ers could take complete control. And this is actually it right here. Juwan Jennings on the 45-yard touchdown reception here. This expands the lead from to 26-14, and they've got all the momentum back. The Saints had some momentum right before that, and it kind of goes away. Then They get the touchdown that they desperately needed. 6 minutes left in
Right.
this game. And it's like, okay, hey, a couple stops, a stop here, we can win. And then the Saints defense actually made 2 stops late to give Rattler the ball back twice, but the offense could just not find its footing. The pass rush for the 49ers is the story of this one for me. Late when the Saints were needing to pass, they knew that the Saints were going to pass. You get to tee off with these rushers, man, and they were all over. Nick Bosa, I mean, he is so special. Fred Warner earlier in the game had the punch out on Alvin Kamara. So, we just saw the better players for the 49ers make the big plays in this one, and that kind of was that was the reason why 49ers were able to pull it off. And I will say, for all those Mac Jones haters out there, he went crazy today.
He went really well.
Yes, as a Saints fan, you don't like to see that, obviously, but he looked like he was a starter out there. Mac Jones was very impressive. And as a 49ers fan, we don't know how long that Brock Purdy injury is going to be. So I would be feeling pretty good with him at the helm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we were talking about it. One thing that the Saints were kind of struggling with. Again, I'm looking at this not as a Saints fan,
Yep.
so I'm sorry that you've got to say this
Yeah.
as a Saints fan. As a non-Saints fan, but we'll cheer for him every once in a while. It looked like can you just kind of give us a little analysis of like that offensive line? That pocket collapses. We were counting 2 seconds. It collapsed.
I mean, the last play of the game, 4th down, you desperately have got to protect the quarterback there. And Fuaga, the right tackle, gets absolutely blown past.
Right.
It's 1 second. Rattler has no chance there.
Right.
And yes, that's very well said, Holly. This was kind of the story of the game late. Especially late. Yes.
Early on,
because they were
solid.
they were opening running lanes, but once they got that pass rush, once they said, all right, the Saints are passing the ball, they know they're passing the ball, they're teeing off with those pass rushers that are elite on that team, and we got to see that skill for the 49ers. But yeah, the offensive line for the Saints, when you look at it, it's got some veterans, but it's still young. You have a rookie left tackle in Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. That's the guy they drafted in the first round this year. Fuaga last year, he was the first pick for the Saints. So you got so much youth. Obviously, Cesar Ruiz at right guard, he got blown up on a play. It was actually on the last drive as well. When they ran the ball on 2nd down, he gets absolutely blown past, on a bull rush. So those little things late on the offensive line really, really showed. And not having a Trevor Penning, I know some Saints fans are not the biggest fan of a Trevor Penning, but he was a first-round pick as well.
Right.
And he's got moved to left guard, and he's been out all season. So we had a backup there. Now, Eric McCoy had a penalty earlier in the game, but he played pretty well, and that's the leader on the offensive line. But, yeah, that really was late specifically. That pass rush, they just made some plays. But the Saints defense, even though they allowed 26 points in this game, they made a couple plays late that were really special, that gave the Saints a chance. And as a Saints fan, and for all my fellow Saints fans, you got to be impressed with Spencer Rattler, and that's it. Like, what the quarterback situation is for the Saints right now, and you got to walk away after these 2 games and say, hey, we didn't win, and he still hasn't won as a starter. I understand that. But he is really executing the offense very efficiently. And that's the word I want to use, efficiently.
Right. And then just before we wrap up, the Saints will be playing. Who is their next matchup? Can you go off the top? I'm kind of putting them on the
Yeah,
spot
no, it's
here.
the Seahawks. I thought it was the Seahawks. I wanted to make sure. Yeah, they play the Seahawks next week. This is their first road game. This is a 3:05 kickoff. So, first road game. How do they play in Seattle? That is one of the hardest stadiums to play in. It's very, very, very loud. The Seahawks got a massive win against the Pittsburgh Steelers today, and they looked very, very good. So, and the Seahawks they were coming off of a loss from week 1 to the 49ers.
Right.
So they got some common opponent here. So this is going to be very interesting to see if the Saints can get in the win column. They're desperately going to need to get one, because after that you get the Bills. That's a tough one. We know what Josh Allen just did last weekend. And then you get the Giants,
Right.
which that can be a winnable game. So we'll see on the road next week against Seattle.
We'll see. Okay, just for a fun question, I've decided that I don't have a lot of guidance when I want to do this weekend thing, so I've just told Nate I get to do whatever I want at the show. To wrap up, a fun little question for you: if you were an NFL player, which stadium would you want to play in the least? Don't think of history. Don't think of history, sports guy. Like, oh, Lambeau's fun. Oh, the Bills Stadium. Which one are you dreading the most to play in?
Wow,
I do have an answer, but if you need to think, but if you have yours, go ahead.
Okay, well, I've only heard how bad it is, and they're bringing a new one to Washington. I've heard how bad that stadium was. So
The Commander Stadium.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just simply because it's just the quality of the stadium.
Yeah, I've heard it's got some qualities, and they're bringing a new one though, so it's actually going to be in DC as well.
Rookie answer.
Oh,
You couldn't pay me enough to go play at the Bill Stadium in the snow.
that's
in the snow. If I'm 5'3", the snow probably is as tall as me.
Oh, Bill's Mafia maybe makes up for it. The fan base
Maybe.
out there in Buffalo is special.
Oh, I'm saying I'm an away team going to play.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fair.
I'm not
Yeah.
that's no. Anyway, that's a wrap on your Sunday recap.
I gave too logical of an answer.
He gave too logical rookie answer. I'm not playing in the snow that's as tall as me. Anyway, that's a wrap on your Sunday Sunday news, weather, and sports. Have a great rest of your Sunday night.